I'm going to very quickly bring out some ideas because I feel like potentially these ideas could be undermined by certain corporations who like to release my ideas versus theirs. But I'm the first one to bring this to the public, which means that I get certain IP rights when I release this to the public. And I don't believe that they will be able to stop me if I just do what I call preemptive, anti-patent ideas. So what do I mean by this? Well, it means that I've not got time to make a video and put things together and really explain things very well. A lot of people don't realize that the quality in which these videos are produced, my courses, my lectures, were over months. But we don't really have that amount of time to send this information out. People want to make creative things. I want to make this creative software. But I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that I'm going to be able to make this software at the current state of affairs. I have a good standing to make that software. I have a good idea on how to make that software. But even though I have knowledge and I'm hooking it up to a database and we're getting amazing things across a plethora of devices, that's going to be my next thing. And to be honest with you, I don't think it's that far off because of the architecture. But what is more significant? What is more significant is not only the architecture, but making sure the ideas remain free. So enough with the baffle. What are these ideas? Artboards are allowed user stories. So when you go into Artflow, you have a flow diagram of, all of the different artboards and you put them into a flow chart. Well, now you can have multiple user stories. And when you click on a user story, and what a user story is it describes a story in which a user comes to your application and they have a certain objective, they have a certain motive. What does that user want to do inside your application? And then to better understand how that is achieved, we create these user stories, and you can reorganize your artboards for each user story to go with flow diagrams. Also, you can have annotations and notes left from your colleagues inside of the Artflow board. So don't forget, notes are available throughout the entirety of the application. Artboards, anything you can think of, you can leave a note on. Video, you could have a manager come in and leave a few notes on that document saying this needs to change, the color grading is different. Well, with artboards and Artflow, as we call it Artflow. In Artflow, you can have multiple user stories. Viewport on multiple view types. So what does that mean? Well, I want you to think about Blender, the application. I know you might not know what Blender is, but if you actually have a look at Blender, there are basically, just type in Google Images, Blender, multiple viewport modes. Basically, you're looking at the same viewport. So we have the same 3D world, like you're looking at me. And then you clone this entire frame and create another frame and another frame and another frame. And one frame has a different effect on it. Another frame has a different effect on it. So this might be wireframe. This might be fully rendered down the bottom here. And this one might be the original. So we have the original, wireframe, and the fully rendered out version, all singing, all dancing. And so what happens is we just divide up the artboard in however you want. You can have one large one at the bottom, two at the top. Just slice it up. And in each little square, each one has its own mode. It's still the same artboard. It's the same artboard that you're working with. Take a picture. Take a canvas, Okay, you have the Rembrandt in front of you, beautiful picture. Divide it up into 9 pieces, and each one of those pieces can have different effects. And as you move around, all the other little parts move around with it, so that you can have some amazing effects, and you're actually just looking at an artboard. You know, it's not just wireframe mode anymore. It's any mode you wish to seek or desire. But what is the benefit of that? Because each one of those is going to move and pan. So when you move, so let's say we have the Rembrandt, we've cut it up. Now let's say I'm focusing on this guy right here. There's loads of them over here. If I start moving that around, or panning around, or zooming in, zooming out, all of the other little squares zoom in and pan around. Pan around just means moving, and zooming in, bigger, smaller. So everything stays in sync in that regard. Finally, we also have streamlined to canvas. This means that when you have a canvas, you can almost turn it into a video. Okay, so take a canvas like this, and I can edit it and change it. And as I'm editing and changing it, that can be turned into a video texture, and that can be rendered into mock-ups, for example. You can do that. You can put it inside of a game if you wanted to. You know, art scrolling in the background. But what we're doing is we're saying this can turn into, literally, you can see me editing stuff all over this canvas, changing the colour, changing strokes, you know, writing stuff out on the canvas like this, you know, writing out like that, blending and everything else. You can watch me edit an artboard inside of a mock-up. So imagine you had a phone like that. There's my mock-up. You can see my artboard inside of the phone. It makes it look like it's inside the phone. It's just a texture. And you're able to watch me edit that artboard live. Now that sounds gimmicky, but it's rather cool, and it will have its benefits, especially in development presentations and many, many other things. And we're going into this idea that mock-ups aren't smart objects. They are embedded artboards in devices, in your mock-ups. In your mock-up, so this is a mock-up. Let's pretend it's not a real phone. It's a mock-up on a canvas. You are embedding documents into here. You are not embedding a texture that's produced from a document that opened up in another tab. I mean, how they got that patent through, I'm still flabbergasted today, because you could literally patent anything to do with an image. It's crazy. But hey ho, that's what they do. Now finally we have the brush tool. Ooh, the stylus comes out. Now the problem with using brushes and things like that is they will always be rasterized. And what do I mean by rasterized? I mean like how you take a picture, and if anybody's taken a picture, like my smiley little face, and then you blow it up to the size of, you know, the size of a bus, you are going to get pixelation. So with that rasterization or pixelization, it's not done mathematically or anything. It's not SVG. It's pixelated. So once I do that brush stroke, you think of a beautiful brush stroke, and then you go, bugger, that was the best brush stroke I did. That's the best line I could have taken. But you might want to edit it, but you might want to make it massive compared to what it was. You might want to make it huge. Maybe you drew a logo for a tablet screen and then realize there's somebody here saying, oh, I've got a billboard free and I'm going to print your logo on it. And all of a sudden you have this rasterized art and you can't do nothing about it. Well, my application is non-destructive, especially with pencil tools and all brush tools. You draw a line. That creates an SVG path. Along that path there will be the follow of the brush. So you have a path. I've drawn an SVG path. This path is editable. You can move it around just like a normal editable path in Photoshop. You use the pen tool. Yeah, use the pen tool. I've made a path and you can edit that path and change the shape of it. Well, now you have the brush that will attach to the path. The brush will attach to the path. And then if you modify the path, it will re-render the path again with the brush that was attached to it. What this means is, if you made an oopsie at the end, you can just fix it. You don't have to try and do it perfect. If this brush tool is something where you want to go back and edit, maybe change something a little bit, maybe modify something a little bit. All I know is I give creators more freedom and power and they come up with the use cases. But yeah, the brush tool with path attachment means that we have non-destructive brushes in our application. I don't think I've ever seen that anywhere, where you pick up the brush tool, you define a path, the brush and the brush style is rendered along the path. And then you can come back at any point in time and edit the path and have the brush re-rendered. Which means that your brushes become non-destructive. You may also want to experiment with brushes. So you can edit the path and you can edit the thickness and thinness at certain points. But you may want to re-render that path. You might have gone, no, I don't really like that brush. Okay, we've gone with a straight paintbrush type brush. Maybe I want to go with the flowery type brush that produces a load of little flowers. Well, now you can just re-render that path with flowers. And it makes life a lot easier. Also, we want 3D replication in a lattice. So if you think about a lattice, it's just a thing that's divided up. Think of a fisher's net. Yeah. If I pull out a fisher's net flat, all these little squares, okay, it goes like that, like a noughts and crosses grid. Yeah, noughts and crosses. And at each point where each line intersects another line, you can have an object rendered. This is nothing new to the 3D world, but we're bringing more 3D into our environment, where you can have 3D objects being rendered. You can warp that lattice, change that lattice, modify it, and the little balls and things like that, whatever it is, it could be spheres, it could be images, it could be text, it could be anything, will morph. I think for that one, I'm going to have to demonstrate it in a visual way. But hopefully, if you've been following Blank Canvas, you will know these ideas are unique, and of course, they will be copied by big corporations near you soon. My whole premise for doing this is to get a good, quick video done to stop them from locking me out my own ideas, which I find abhorrent and unnecessary. So, thank you very much. I will see you another day, and don't worry, I'm going to get back into tutorials and things like that. I do appreciate my audience hugely, but there is something that we must do first, which is making sure these ideas remain safe for when I do want to develop them. I don't want to get sued for my own creativity and my ideas. They watch me, they love me because they think that I'm going to give them my ideas for free. Well, I've done that before, and I will not do it again because I've seen how these people operate, and you wouldn't trust them. You really, really would not trust them. You just wouldn't.